The endless siege. The Melvian system had known peace for millennia. 12 inhabited planets orbited their binary stars in perfect harmony, their crystalline cities gleaming beneath lavender skies. The Melvians themselves were a graceful species, tall and willowy with skin that shifted colors like opal in sunlight. They had mastered art, science, and philosophy long before most species had discovered fire. But peace, as the universe often proves, is a fragile thing. 8 years ago, the Zarkon arrived. They came not with diplomacy or trade proposals, but with warships that blotted out the stars. The Zarkon were conquerors, their empire stretching across 100 systems. They were massive beings, standing 12 feet tall with chitinous armor that could deflect plasma fire. Their technology was superior, their tactics brutal, and their appetite for conquest insatiable. The Melvians fought back. Despite their peaceful nature, they weren't helpless. Their energy shields could withstand considerable punishment, and their crystal-based weapons could pierce most armor. But against the Zarkon war machine, it wasn't enough. Year after year, planet after planet fell. The crystalline cities burned, their spires crumbling under relentless bombardment. Ambassador Taylor stood on the observation deck of the last free Melvian space station, watching debris from their latest defeat drift past. His skin had turned a deep blue, the color of profound sorrow among his people. 8 years of war had aged him beyond his centuries. 8 years of watching his civilization crumble. Ambassador, a young aide approached, her skin flickering with nervous yellow patterns. We've received a response to our distress call. Taylor turned, hope barely daring to flicker in his 3 hearts. They had sent countless pleas for help across the galaxy. Most species were too afraid of the Zarkon to respond. Others were already conquered. Who answered? He asked, his voice carrying the weight of countless disappointments. A species from the outer rim. They call themselves humans. Taylor's skin patterns shifted to curious green. He had never heard of these humans. The outer rim was considered primitive space, filled with young species still taking their first steps into the cosmos. What did they say? The aide's skin turned bright orange, the color of confusion. They said they'll be here in 3 standard cycles, and they asked us to hold on for just 3 more days. 3 days. After 8 years of war, what difference could 3 days make? The answer came exactly on schedule. A single ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Taylor stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. 1 ship, against the entire Zarkon armada. The human vessel was unusual. Where Zarkon ships were massive and angular, built to intimidate, this ship was sleek and curved, almost organic in design. It was smaller than even a Melvian patrol craft, barely 100 meters long. A communication channel opened, and Taylor got his first look at a human. The being on the screen was smaller than a Melvian, with no color-changing skin, just a uniform shade of brown. Dark hair framed a face that seemed capable of endless expressions. Ambassador Taylor. I'm Commander Elena Santiago, Earth Space Force. We received your distress call. Taylor's skin flushed deep purple with embarrassment. Commander, I thank you for responding, but I fear there has been a misunderstanding. The Zarkon fleet numbers in the thousands. Perhaps you should withdraw before. Elena Santiago smiled, and something in that expression made Taylor pause. It wasn't the smile of someone facing certain death. It was the smile of someone who knew something others didn't. Ambassador, I understand your concern, but I need you to trust me. We've studied the Zarkon. We know how they fight, and we know how to beat them. In 8 years, we haven't found a weakness. Taylor protested. That's because you've been looking at the problem wrong, Elena replied. The Zarkon are like a hammer. All they know is brute force. They expect their enemies to fight the same way. But humans, we're different. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. Give us 3 hours, Ambassador. Just 3 hours, and this war will be over. Taylor wanted to argue, to explain the impossibility of her claim. But something in her certainty made him hesitate. What choice did they have? In 3 days, the Zarkan would breach their last defenses anyway. Very well, Commander. 3 hours. What do you need from us? Just watch and learn, Ambassador. And maybe have your medical teams ready. Not for casualties, for treating shock when your people see what humans can do. The channel closed, leaving Taylor staring at the empty screen. Around him, his staff muttered in disbelief, their skin patterns shifting through confused yellows and skeptical grays. 3 hours to end an 8-year war. It was madness. But as Taylor would soon learn, humans had a special relationship with madness. They didn't fear it. They'd weaponized it. The lone human ship began to move, not toward the Zarkan fleet as expected, but in a complex pattern through the debris field left by years of battle. The Zarkan, detecting the small vessel, dispatched a squadron of fighters to deal with what they assumed was a scout ship. That was their first mistake. What happened next would become legend across the galaxy, studied in military academies for generations. The human ship didn't engage the fighters. Instead, it began broadcasting on all frequencies, not weapons signatures or shield harmonics, but music. Strange, rhythmic sounds that pulsed through space. The Zarkan fighters hesitated, confused by this unprecedented tactic. That hesitation cost them everything. From within the debris field, dozens of objects previously dismissed as wreckage suddenly came to life. They weren't wreckage at all, but human drones, disguised and waiting. Each drone was tiny, no larger than a Melvian's hand. But they moved with perfect coordination, swarming the Zarkan fighters like angry insects. The fighters' shields, designed to repel energy weapons and missiles, were useless against the physical impact of hundreds of drones. Within minutes, the entire squadron was disabled, their pilots trapped in powerless ships. But this was just the beginning. The human ship continued its dance through the system, and with each movement, more surprises revealed themselves. Asteroid miners, previously thought abandoned, activated and began launching modified mining charges. Communication satellites, ignored by the Zarkan as harmless, started broadcasting interference patterns that scrambled their fleet coordination. Taylor watched in amazement as the humans revealed layer after layer of preparation. They hadn't just arrived 3 days ago. They had been setting this up for months, perhaps years, disguising their preparations as natural phenomena or abandoned equipment. How? He whispered. How did we not see this? His aide, her skin now bright white with awe, responded, because we weren't looking for it. The humans, they think differently. Indeed they did. While the Melvians and Zarkan had fought conventional battles, the humans had prepared something else entirely. They hadn't brought overwhelming force. They had brought overwhelming creativity. As the 3-hour mark approached, the true scope of the human plan became clear. Every piece of debris, every abandoned satellite, every forgotten mining station had been turned into a weapon. The entire star system had become a trap, and the Zarkan had walked right into it. Commander Elena Santiago's face appeared on the screen again. This time, her smile was gone, replaced by grim determination. Ambassador Taylor, you might want to shield your eyes. This next part gets bright. In the distance, the human ship positioned itself at the exact center of the Zarkan fleet formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, simultaneously, every piece of human equipment in the system activated at once. The result was not an explosion, but something far more devastating. A cascading failure of every system the Zarkan relied on. Their shields collapsed, their weapons overloaded, their engines sputtered and died. In the span of heartbeats, the most feared war fleet in the galaxy was reduced to drifting hulks. 3 hours. That's all it had taken. As promised, the war was over. 3 hours of thunder. The Zarkan command ship, Imperator's Fist, hung lifeless in space, its massive bulk now nothing more than an inert metal tomb. Inside, Supreme Warmaster Krell slammed his armored fist against the command console, leaving a sizable dent in the reinforced metal. His chitinous plates, usually a proud crimson, had dulled to angry brown. "Impossible," he roared, his voice echoing through the powerless bridge. "We are the Zarkan. We have conquered 100 systems. How can one tiny ship do this?" His second-in-command, Tactical Officer Voss, frantically worked at the auxiliary controls, trying to restore even basic functions. "Warmaster, it wasn't just one ship. They've turned our own protocols against us." Before Krell could respond, every screen on the bridge suddenly flickered to life. The face of Commander Elena Santiago appeared, calm and composed despite having just crippled the most powerful fleet in the quadrant. "Supreme Warmaster Krell," she began, her tone professional but firm. "I am Commander Elena Santiago of Earth. Your fleet has been neutralized. I strongly suggest you surrender." Krell's mandibles clicked in rage. "Surrender? The Zarkan do not surrender. When we restore power—" "You won't be restoring power," Elena interrupted. "What you're experiencing isn't a temporary malfunction. Your ships have been infected with a cascading quantum virus that specifically targets your power distribution networks. The more you try to restart your systems, the worse the damage becomes." She paused, letting that sink in. "But that's not the most interesting part. Would you like to know how we did it?" Despite his fury, Krell found himself listening. No enemy had ever defeated the Zarkan so completely, so quickly. Elena continued, "You see, Warmaster, humans have a saying. If you can't beat them at their game, change the game. You Zarkan are masters of conventional warfare. Your shields can withstand any direct assault. Your weapons can pierce any armor. So we didn't attack your shields or armor." On another screen, tactical displays began to appear, showing the intricate web of human planning. "3 years ago, we intercepted your invasion plans for the Melvian system. Instead of warning them, which would have only delayed the inevitable, we prepared. We studied your technology, your tactics, your psychology. And we found your weakness." "We have no weakness," Krell snarled. "Everyone has weaknesses, Warmaster. Yours is standardization. Every Zarkan ship uses the same power protocols, the same shield harmonics, the same command frequencies. It makes your fleet efficient, yes, but it also makes you vulnerable to a systemic attack." The tactical display showed how human operatives had spent years planting seemingly harmless devices throughout the system. Mining charges modified to emit specific frequencies. Communication satellites reprogrammed to broadcast coded signals. Even the debris field had been carefully arranged to create resonance patterns. "For 8 years, while you fought the Melvians, we were setting up what my people call a symphony of destruction. Every piece had to be perfectly placed, perfectly timed. The music you heard, that wasn't just psychological warfare. Those frequencies were the activation signal for thousands of hidden devices." Krell's plates shifted to a sickly green as understanding dawned. "The debris field, the abandoned stations, all carefully prepared," Elena confirmed. "Your scouts dismissed them as battlefield detritus. Your arrogance blinded you to the trap being built around you." Meanwhile, aboard the human vessel Prometheus, Captain Marcus Chen coordinated the next phase of the operation. His bridge crew worked with an efficiency that would have impressed even the most disciplined Zarkan officer. "Status report," he called out. "All Zarkan vessels successfully disabled," reported Lieutenant Wang. "No casualties on either side. As planned. Boarding teams. Ready to deploy, sir. The Melvian medical teams are also standing by." Marcus nodded. This was the part that would truly demonstrate human ingenuity. Not only had they defeated the Zarkan without killing a single one, but they were about to turn enemies into allies. "Commence Operation Olive Branch," he ordered. Across the disabled Zarkan fleet, small human shuttles began to dock. But instead of armed soldiers, they carried engineers, medics, and diplomats. The boarding teams brought portable power units, food, medical supplies, everything the stranded Zarkan crews would need to survive. On the Imperator's Fist, Krell watched in confusion as humans entered his bridge not with weapons drawn, but with offers of assistance. War Master, Elena's image said, "Our teams are there to help. Your life support systems will fail in approximately 6 hours without power. We're providing temporary generators and supplies." "Why?" Krell demanded. "Why not destroy us?" Elena's expression softened slightly. "Because, War Master, humans learned long ago that today's enemy can be tomorrow's ally. The galaxy doesn't need more death. It needs understanding." She gestured to someone off-screen, and Ambassador Taylor's image appeared beside hers. The Melvian skin showed swirling patterns of hope and wonder. "The humans have shown us a different way," Taylor said. "They could have annihilated your fleet, but they chose precision over destruction, creativity over brutality." As Krell watched human engineers work alongside his own crew to stabilize life support, something unprecedented happened in Zarkan history. For the first time, a War Master questioned the path of endless conquest. The human approach was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They had defeated the Zarkan not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. They had turned the entire star system into a weapon, using the Zarkan's own standardization against them. But most remarkably, they had done it all without taking a single life. In the command center of the Prometheus, Marcus Chen reviewed the operation's success with satisfaction. Every objective had been achieved, every contingency planned for. "Sir," Lieutenant Wong reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from Zarkan vessels across the system." "Not surrender," Marcus corrected. "They're accepting our aid. There's a difference." He opened a channel to Elena on the Imperator's Fist. "Commander, Phase 2 is complete. How's our War Master friend?" Elena glanced at Krell, whose plates had shifted to a contemplative blue. "I think he's beginning to understand. The question is, what happens next?" Marcus smiled. "What happens next is we show the galaxy that there's strength in unity, not conquest. The Zarkan Empire is about to become the Zarkan Alliance." As human ships moved through the system, distributing aid and repairing critical systems, something remarkable began to happen. Zarkan soldiers, who had known nothing but conquest for generations, found themselves working side by side with humans and Melvians. The 3 hours of combat were over, but the real victory was just beginning. In the depths of space, where the Zarkan fleet drifted helplessly, a new understanding was being forged. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had changed the very nature of warfare in the galaxy, and they had done it all in 3 hours. The thunder of human creativity had spoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of victory. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. On 1,000 worlds, in countless languages, the same story was told. The invincible Zarkan Empire, which had crushed civilizations for centuries, had been defeated in 3 hours by a single human ship. But it wasn't just the speed of the victory that stunned the galactic community. It was the method. No massive fleets, no planet-destroying weapons, no rivers of blood. Just ingenuity, preparation, and an understanding of the enemy that bordered on prescient. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss this unprecedented event. The Vordak ambassador, whose people had lost 3 systems to the Zarkan, spoke first. "How?" she demanded, her crystalline form pulsing with confusion. "How did humans accomplish what none of us could in decades of warfare?" The newly appointed human ambassador, Dr. Sarah Muller, stood to address the assembly. Unlike the imposing figures of other species representatives, she seemed almost unremarkable. Average height, graying hair, simple attire. But when she spoke, the entire chamber fell silent. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "the answer is simple. While you fought the Zarkan on their terms, we chose to fight on ours. Humans have a long history of asymmetric warfare, of finding ways to defeat stronger opponents through unconventional means. She activated a holographic display showing the battle's key moments. The Zarkan expected brute force because that's all they knew. They built their entire military doctrine around overwhelming power. But power without adaptability is just potential energy waiting to be redirected. The Melvian ambassador Taylor, his skin now showing proud golden hues, added his perspective. The humans spent 3 years studying not just our enemy's technology, but their psychology, their culture, their very way of thinking. They understood the Zarkan better than the Zarkan understood themselves. Back in the Melvian system, the aftermath of the battle was transforming into something nobody had expected. The Zarkan, stripped of their power, but not their dignity, were experiencing something entirely new: mercy from a victor. War Master Krell stood on the observation deck of his restored command ship, now functioning thanks to human engineering. Beside him stood Commander Elena Santiago, who had become an unlikely advisor in the weeks following the battle. "I still don't understand," Krell admitted, his plates shifting to thoughtful blue. "Why spare us? Why help us? In our culture, the defeated are enslaved or destroyed." Elena gazed out at the stars. "And how has that worked out for your culture, War Master? Endless war, endless enemies, endless fear of rebellion. Humans learned long ago that the best way to eliminate an enemy is to turn them into a friend. But we attacked you. We would have enslaved your people." "Would have," Elena emphasized. "But you didn't. And now you have a choice. Continue down the path of conquest and eventually face someone who won't show mercy, or join us in building something better." Krell was quiet for a long moment. "Your people, they think differently. Not just tactically, but fundamentally. You see possibilities where others see only obstacles." "That's our greatest strength," Elena agreed. "Humans are problem solvers by nature. Give us an impossible situation, and we'll find a way to make it possible. Tell us something can't be done, and we'll spend sleepless nights figuring out how to do it anyway." The transformation of the Zarkan from conquerors to allies became the greatest testament to human ingenuity. Instead of occupying Zarkan worlds or demanding reparations, humans offered trade agreements and technological exchanges. They showed the Zarkan that cooperation could bring greater prosperity than conquest ever had. Within a year, former Zarkan warriors were serving alongside humans and Melvians in a new peacekeeping force. Their strength and discipline, once used for oppression, now protected trade routes and defended vulnerable systems. The Galactic Council established a new military doctrine based on human principles. The Santiago Protocol, named after Elena, emphasized understanding over destruction, precision over power, and creativity over convention. In academies across the galaxy, military cadets studied the 3-hour war as the pivotal moment when warfare changed forever. They learned that the greatest weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the strongest shield, but the mind that could see what others couldn't. Dr. Mueller addressed the council one final time before returning to Earth. "Humanity offers this lesson to the galaxy. Strength isn't just about what you can destroy, but what you can preserve. Power isn't just about what you can take, but what you can give. And victory isn't just about defeating your enemy, but about transforming them into your ally." 5 years after the battle, the Melvian system hosted the first Galactic Unity Conference. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the rebuilt crystal cities, their differences celebrated rather than feared. War Master Krell, now Ambassador Krell, stood beside Commander Santiago and Ambassador Taylor as they unveiled a monument to the battle. It wasn't a traditional war memorial glorifying victory, but a simple sphere containing fragments from every ship involved in the conflict, human, Melvian, and Zarkan, fused together in harmony. The inscription read, "Here, humanity taught the galaxy that the greatest victories are won not with weapons, but with wisdom, not with force, but with foresight, not with 3 hours of war, but with 3 years of preparation." As the ceremony concluded, A young Zarkan approached Elena. His plates, still developing their adult coloration, shifted through curious patterns. "Commander," he asked, "my elders say humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but you showed mercy. You helped us. How can both be true?" Elena smiled, remembering her own grandfather's words from long ago. "We are dangerous precisely because we can choose mercy. Any species can destroy. It takes true strength to build. Any fool can make an enemy. It takes wisdom to make a friend." The young Zarkan considered this, his plates shifting to understanding blue. "So humans are dangerous because you think differently." "Exactly," Elena confirmed. "We're dangerous because when everyone else sees a wall, we see a door. When others see an end, we see a beginning. And when the galaxy sees enemies, we see potential friends." As the delegates dispersed, returning to their worlds with new perspectives and possibilities, the truth of humanity's victory became clear. They hadn't just won a battle in 3 hours. They had changed the galaxy's destiny in 3 years of careful planning and 3 moments of decisive action. The war that had lasted years ended in hours, but the peace it created would last generations. And at its heart was a simple human truth. The most powerful weapon in the universe isn't a gun or a bomb, but an idea whose time has come. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as teachers. And their first lesson was unforgettable. True strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to preserve, transform, and unite. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had planned all along. End of story.